Hi friends, your pal Scott Garibay, and today we are going to talk about Critical Role lead Matthew Mercer, Dragon Master Orion Akaba, and James Earl Jones, and how James Earl Jones proves, in my humble opinion, that that Orion Akaba was in Vox Machina for 72 episodes, not 27. All right. So there's this debate. How many episodes is Orion Akaba at the table? Is he at the table for 27 episodes or is he at the table for 72 episodes? So some people say that he's only at the table for 27 episodes, and that when they physically exiled Orion Akaba, he no longer has a part in the story. Okay. And that's the leaving of Orion Akaba. I believe this is wrong, and I believe that Orion Akaba remains at the table playing Tiberius Stormwind through episode 72, where he finally reaches his final burial site. Okay, now wait, why are you crediting him with 28 through 72? All right, here we go. The reason I credit him with episodes 28 through 72 is because Matthew Mercer attempted to play Tiberius Stormwind during those periods, okay? And Matthew Mercer did puppet Tiberius Stormwind through various actions, all the way up to his second and final burial, okay, in episode 72. Now, who gets credit for that? Who played Tiberius Stormwind? The answer is not Matthew Mercer. Matthew Mercer never did anything with Orion Akaba's character. Why? Because Orion Akaba created Tiberius Stormwind, and Matthew Mercer never had any right to make any decisions for Orion Akaba. So when he puppeted Tiberius Stormwind, who gets credit for the play? It's Orion Akaba. Right? You're like, well, no, he couldn't possibly get credit for that play, right? Because he wasn't there. I'm about to prove you wrong, in my humble opinion. Here we go. James Earl Jones proves my point, in my humble opinion. Here we go. All right. So James Earl Jones is the first official Deleb. Okay. What is a Deleb? It's a dead celebrity. A celeb, a living celebrity, a Deleb, a dead celebrity. We now have these. And James Earl Jones is the first one. Peter O'Toole, who played Grand Moff Tarkin, was in the mix, but there were people who came along and said, hey, he didn't give his permission for that, right? But recently we got the full arc, okay? So recently in Fortnite, there were some engineers who came along and they did some work. And now before he died, James Earl Jones gave full permission for his voice to be used for Darth Vader, exactly as his voice had been used for Darth Vader since 1977. Even when he was dead, James Earl Jones was paid while he was alive, and his estate was paid while he was alive for this. They were paid handsomely, right? And then Fortnite put Darth Vader into their game, and some engineers did some work, and thousands of players then had James Earl Jones say, apples are delicious, in the voice of Darth Vader, right? And lots of players had Darth Vader say different things, and the engineers made it possible for players to say different things. Who gets the credit for those thousands of lines? Who created these new pieces of art with James Earl Jones, Darth Vader? James Earl Jones. He gets full credit, right? For every single new piece of art that was created, James Earl Jones is the one who gets credit. Who is the player who made Darth Vader say apples are delicious? You don't know his name, nor do I, because nobody cares. He didn't do anything useful. He didn't do anything useful, right? Like, he didn't do enough to get credit for new art. Who's the engineer who created it? I don't know. You don't know. We don't need their name. And the reason why is they didn't do anything significant enough to take the credit for the art from James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones is responsible. He is the artist who controls Darth Vader today, okay, as a Deleb, right? And no one is crediting the new art to any of the players or any of the engineers. They haven't done enough to be credited with that art, right? James Earl Jones is credited with that art, even though the remove is literally death, right? He is dead, okay? But everybody's like, oh, of course, that's James Earl Jones art, right? He's, he, just because he's dead doesn't mean he's not creating that art, right? And it's exactly the same with Orion Akaba. Yes, Matthew Mercer attempted to puppet Tiberius Stormwind, right? But all of his actions do not get to the point of him getting credited with any of the art that Tiberius Stormwind created, that Orion Akaba created at the table from 28 to 72. The moment that Matthew Mercer attempted to puppet Tiberius Stormwind and put him into the story from 28 to 72, that put Orion Akaba at the table. And he is fully credited, 100% credited. And Matthew Mercer gets none of the credit because he never had any right to do anything with that character because he didn't create that character. Okay? I believe that James Earl Jones is strong evidence that being removed from a situation does not take away your 100% right to all of the art created with your critical character, the character that you brought to life. James Earl Jones brought Darth Vader to life. He is still credited today with every piece of new art created with Darth Vader. Okay, no one else, right? And the reality is, Matthew Mercer, even though he attempted to puppet Tiberius Stormwind, every piece of story, every piece of new art that was created from 28 to 72 belongs and should be fully credited to Orion Akaba, and is. That's why I continue to credit Orion Akaba with 72 episodes, the correct count of his presence at the Vox Machina table. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.